Welcome back to Echo Ridge and another episode here in our Captain of Industry series. Today we're going to be starting with the automation section of our goals, and this is where you really start to see a lot of divergence in play style, namely just because you have the tools to be able to do that. I also made a change on our ramp here. I had previously made it a little low. I wanted to make sure it was an even ramp up here at the top, so in the end it ended up being a good thing because it gives us more area to dump into. I also want to make sure I don't forget to add another dump site for the eventuality that they run out over there, and I think it's going to be right over here for future shipyards and cargo lanes and that sort of thing. So let me try to get it out there, something like this. Oh yeah, this is going to be glorious. Yeah, that looks good there, I think. So now, depending on which one's closer to them, they'll start dumping it off here as well, and we'll have a nice squared off area for more ports. Suppose I could also do the same over here. I'll stop right before our trade depot though. We'll end up eventually having to move that, but this is going to help in the long term. Next up though, we're researching fuel stations and conveyor belts. Conveyor belts is easy enough to find, and fuel stations is right behind it. I'm also going to queue up the groundwater pump because I know that's coming soon. Oh, irrigated farms would be nice. I don't believe it's a part of the tutorial, but we'll eventually get there. And then retaining walls, we're going to make everything be able to look super cool around our island. I must have done something wrong. Pickup is struggling to find the destination it can reach. Oh, yep. I definitely blocked that truck in. Well, you'll eventually be able to find a way out, buddy. Sorry about that. Now, one of two things is going to happen. A, it's going to run out of fuel as it keeps trying to move up as people dump more and more behind it. Maybe I should have started at the top when I redid this ramp. Conveyor belt has been completed, and our tutorial task is just to connect a couple of buildings with conveyor belts, except I'm not going to do that. We're going to connect a lot of buildings to conveyor belts, starting with our mechanical parts here, because I want to make sure that we always have a nice backstock. So I'm going to go over to transport unit storage and line this up like so. Maybe this would be a little bit better. And there's a reason why I'm doing 2 tiles away. You don't have to. You could connect them up pretty tight. But I like doing this so I can see the goods going in. Now we have 2 types of conveyors, flat conveyors and U-shaped conveyors. Flat conveyors are for finished products. U-shape is for loose material, and in this case I want to backstock a lot of this coal. Right now the ore sorting plant for our coal is stopped because, well, it's reached capacity, and I'd rather be able to backstock a lot more of that. So what I'm going to do is set up a wonderful loose storage bin here, and instead of using the flat conveyor, I'm going to use the U-shaped conveyor and plug it right in. All the dirt and rock is being transported to our dump site, so we don't have to worry about it too much. But now all our coal will be dropped off in here, and thus they can start mining again. The tutorial also wants us to do that same sort of feature by outputting slag that the blast furnace produces. Well, if we go over here, you can see the slag output, but this building here is in the way. So I'm going to create another one there, deconstruct this guy, and then reconnect its molten channels. Hence the reason why I built the copper one like this. And now we can make sure that the slag is never causing the blast furnace to back up. And I'll provide a loose storage bin right here. I think this looks pretty good right next to the building itself. A little U-shaped connector. And there we go. That one's done. And I might as well repeat the process right over here because it seems to be just a good habit. Now, obviously, I could use one container for both of these buildings, but with the distance here and the fact that a loose storage bin only requires 30 construction parts, I figured we give each blast furnace their own loose storage bin. But this, I think, is a good opportunity to be able to improve all of our assemblers by being able to backstock a lot of their materials. And I just realized this thing was built flipped from these. I don't love that, but it's okay. We're going to rebuild them all anyways. And definitely not end up with a problem of running out of construction parts while I don't have any buildings building construction parts. And I think we can actually save ourselves some time for at least a few of these and start with assembler 2s. And I'll build construction part 1 here and then construction parts 2 here. I'm also going to spend a little bit of our materials and upgrade this assembler So we're creating mechanical parts faster. And I don't need 2 assemblers to say build construction parts, especially considering we are going to be lining them up with some storage, just like this. Now here's where you could start doing some very sexy stuff. For instance, connecting the outputs of the electronics and construction parts onto the inputs of the construction parts too. Just like we use our conveyor rails to ship out parts, we can use our conveyor rails to ship in parts. And we would do that by just connecting the output of the storage here and connect it right in. But as you can see, that's a little ugly. So I'm not going to do that step of automation quite yet. We have plenty of trucks, so I have no problem having the trucks deliver parts to the assemblers, at least in this stage of the game. Oh, this means I can actually get rid of this one here. I'll need to leave the wood. I need to queue that one up for deletion, but before I do, I'm going to build another storage building, say right here, to hold all of our iron plate, and I'll hook those up just like this. And now they'll take all of this iron plate and drop it off over here. Got my new assemblers for vehicle parts. I'm going to need one for electronics, and then I'll set their storage up. One of the nice quality of life features I've found is we haven't assigned any material to this storage, but as soon as we start shipping materials into it, it will self-assign the building so you don't have to set it. I'm also going around the map and doing our other buildings, such as our rubber maker. Rubber is, of course, the flat conveyor. When you highlight over the conveyor type, it shows you what products it can move. Well, at least out of the ones that you've discovered so far. Now, one of the disadvantages that we talked about last time about the assembler 2 is that they require a lot more power. And we have a couple of improvements we can already do on the map. Notice our diesel generators are the way over here and is having diesel manually loaded into it. And while it can hold 20 diesel, it doesn't last too long when it's producing 800 kilowatts at a clip. Well, remember, we have a nice little diesel factory right over here. So I'm going to come right off of our fluid storage, say here, and put in 2 diesel generators. And once those are in, we'll have 1600 kilowatts. And the diesel fluid storage ends up being a buffer tank for our diesel generators. See? Captain of Industry has buffer tanks too. And there we go. Now these are going to end up being a backup power supply because soon we'll be getting into some much bigger power. But for now, this will do us nicely. And also means I can deconstruct this one. And that'll save our trucks from having to go and fill that one up manually. Now I know a lot of you would love to see a bunch of assembly pipes going in between these buildings so that we could provide their input automatically. And we will eventually do that. But for now, to keep it nice and simple and clean, I think this works out well. Especially when you consider the fact, once we get all of these storage buildings filled with their components, the trucks are going to be able to load up, for instance, here at our assembly machine making vehicle parts, 40 mechanical parts and 40 electronics. And they'll just sit there waiting for when we need more vehicle parts. Next up is our fuel station. Our current implementation has all the trucks heading over to fluid storage units that have diesel in them. And that works. But we can take it one step further in adding a fuel station to the colony, which we're going to do for the simple fact of completing the tutorial goal. But the great thing about the fuel station is you can assign a truck to it, and this truck will go from site to site and fill up the excavators. I'm sure there are other benefits to the fuel station, but they do cost 20 construction parts and the pickup assigned to do it, so I'm not 100% sure which is more convenient, just putting a bunch of fluid storage around near sites like our iron ore, or having yield gas station here with an assigned pickup truck that drops off all the fuel to the excavators. I'm not too worried about the pickup trucks because they move pretty fast, and by conveniently placing fluid storages around, they'll go to the nearest one whenever their truck starts running low. Let me know in the comments below if you have any thoughts on the gas station versus just putting a bunch of fluid tanks around. Something I needed to do, as you can tell from all the slag backing up here, is telling the trucks to keep this thing empty. So I'm going to take my slider and send it all the way back, and now we'll start exporting all that slag to our dump sites. And we'll get a reward for it. Next up on the research tree is settlement water. well, we'll start being able to tap into the groundwater using a pump. I just got the warning that we're running low on food. You can see we're down to 14 months here. Each of our food markets does not have a lot. We only have 167 potatoes left, so it might be time to add another farm here. I can't wait till we get off of the potatoes. I'm not 100% sure if this was due to a lack of water because it hasn't rained in a quick minute, or if it's because one farm can't support the 268 folks that we have. And just like that, it started to rain again. Very nice. That wasn't a lot of rain though. Now, while I'm refusing to interconnect all of these buildings, there's some improvements that we can make. For instance, over here at our copper setup, we have an input right here and outputs from here. So I'm going to go straight down, connect this one in. Very nice. And then I'm going to make a small platform here so we can go up and over the pipe. That looks very clean. We'll make the turn and hopefully this is enough room to be able to get down there. Oh, perfect. That looks like it's too close, so let me back off one here. And now we have a beautiful clean connection, and all our copper plates will go instantly into the electrolyzer. Next up on the tutorial tasks, we're having to build a water facility for our housing area. In this case, I'm going to put it back here. Hopefully it'll fit on that terrain. Oh, very nice. And the reason being is because I know our groundwater pump is going to be right over here. And that way the piping's not spaghettied all out. Oh, the terrain's too high here. What about here? Perfect. And then all I have to do is bring our pipe out and input it into the water facility. Now, there's a bunch of different elevation here, so I don't love the way the piping looks here. But that's all part of the process, right? It's one of the same reasons why I won't interconnect all these buildings yet. This is sort of a temporary setup. Eventually, all this is going to be moved because, well, we're going to have an entire rest of the island to build upon. And now our housing area has access to a water facility. So if we go into our population screen again, because they're getting that fresh water, we're getting another unity and 10 more base health, which is pretty important because we keep adding more pollution to the island. And that unity is important due to our next piece of research, and that's Captain's Office 1, where we're going to be able to unlock the Captain's Office. While we're in there, I am also going to research the lab upgrades because that task is coming up next. I noticed we're down to 4 concrete blocks, so I may have forgotten to reactivate the kiln from last episode for a little bit too long, but concrete's now on its way again. Iron ore seems to be struggling a little bit, which we have plenty of iron here in our ore sorter. So I'm thinking we just need a couple more trucks because we're not getting the iron ore to the blast furnace quick enough. And that's okay. We have 62 available workers. So I'm going to queue up 4 more pickups. Alternatively, what we could have done is move our blast furnace for the iron ore closer to the sorter and had it directly connected, but I don't think that's a big deal. And you can see if we look at our graph here, it is starting to go back up again. We have finished research on the captain's office, so I think this is probably a good spot for it. Well, to tell you the truth, I don't know because of the future upgrades to the research labs. So where am I going to put the captain's office? Maybe over here by the shipyard. I mean, it's not the most beautiful place for it, but we could end up moving it one day. That looks good, I think, maybe. And look at that. The pickup truck that was lost for a little while has now been able to escape, and we now have access to the second shelf of this island. So if we click on one of these wonderful trucks and select this overlay, you can see that the truck is able to go a lot further around the island. Now, I don't know necessarily what we'll need up here, but there's more groundwater, coal. I think that's copper. Nope. Bauxite. Nope. Gold. Guess we get access to gold over here. Oh, it's iron. So more iron available there. A lot more materials. This will be nice. One day. Our vehicles are still extremely busy. So I think we're going to add 4 more pickups. More trucks, less problems. Oh, our captain's office is complete. And when we click on it, you can see there's different edicts that we can put into place. The one the tutorial thinks is most important first is the fuel saver. Right now it's on a 0. We can bump that up to a 1, and now our vehicles will save 15% on their fuel, but it's going to cost us 1 unity. So remember in here, we're gaining extra unity and health by adding that fresh water but now we're starting to lose a little bit. We lose 0.25 for each research lab and 1 for the edict in place. So you can start to see the sort of mid-game give and take between the services that you are providing for your population, the unity that you gain from that in return, in which you then spend that unity on other services. Speaking of which, our research labs are ready for an upgrade, but in order to upgrade them, they require 45 construction part 2, 15 electronics, and 12 lab equipment. So I think in this case, we're just going to build a brand new lab equipment assembler and put it over here. Hopefully set up nicely in between the 2 research labs. I'm going to make sure I save enough room for a unit storage bin, something like this. Add our flat conveyors, beautiful. I just got the message that our trading dock is getting a little unstable, and that's because it is on uneven terrain. So before that causes us some problems, we're going to deconstruct it. I'm guessing it's because we were dumping more soil over here. That's fine, I'm not trading with anybody anyways. And now I can just continue with my awesome straight island edge project. Oh, it's gonna look so nice. Eventually we're gonna have to move this shipyard, but it's gonna take a lot of dirt to fill all that in. Future echo problem. Ooh, our assembler over here is complete. We're gonna set that recipe to be lab equipment, which is gonna require mechanical parts and electronics. I was over here checking on the status of these, and just as I had said, for instance, on construction parts 2, notice they're filled up with 40 construction parts, 40 electronics, because there's no more room in the warehouses. For instance, we just ended up using some more mechanical parts, so this building turned on. So it's really not much on a logistical footprint, considering all 5 buildings are hardly ever all running at the same time. I love how the graphic on the unit storage buildings gives you an indication on how much this building is storing without having to click on it and look. But with that lab equipment coming out, I think it is time to upgrade this first one, and I might as well queue up the second one as well. With our first research building complete, and I realize the port that I'm going to want access to is on the wrong side. Oh, that makes me a sad echo. So time to deconstruct these and rebuild them. But with those being complete, we've got another tutorial goal of finding the oil rig. Well, we did that a while back over here. So now it's time to rebuild these. I can make them a little bit closer now. We'll say one here and one here. And since our assembler was built close to the research labs, I can have a flat conveyor belt sending the lab equipment directly in, except you will match, because the research lab 2s and the subsequent research that they perform require lab equipment. So in the case of power generation 2 and advanced diesel, which is up next on the goals, you'll notice they're all after research lab 1. Same thing goes for another subsection here, research lab 2, and all of these subsequent techs require that. So even if I click on advanced diesel, you can see that it requires the research lab 1. So we'll start there. And I'll also grab power generation 2. That gets me wondering, what was the original research? Oh, research lab basic versus the research lab 1. Now apparently we can also now gain access to recyclables. We don't know what we're doing with the recyclables quite yet, but we are generating them. But it does say that it is an optional output, and the output is discarded without blocking further research. In other words, if we're collecting the recyclables, great. If we don't collect the recyclables, well, they're just going to be discarded. Oh, you've got to be kidding me, little truck. How did you get stuck? I guess you can't get out of a one open gap, so let's open up another one here. Can you come out now? Enables you to click on the specific spot to manually order the driver to move here. Come over here, buddy. Oh, for the love of Pete. Maybe it's because you're facing in that direction. Let me try deconstructing this whole building for you. Progress in the industry has come to an absolute halt because this driver had decided to fall asleep while there was buildings erected beside him. Thank you, buddy. Go back to work, please. Sorry, guys. Tear that whole building down. We got a truck stuck. And yes, I am aware that you can scrap the vehicle, but that seemed unnecessary. Of course, it might have been smarter than scrapping an entire building. Well, that's going to do it for this episode, which may end up being a little bit shorter when I get it to the editing room. But the next episode is going to be pretty beefy based on the subjects of Advanced Diesel and Power Generation 1. But we are quickly approaching the end of the tutorial. I mean, it'll only take 5 or 6 episodes, but even from that point, we have barely even scratched the surface of what's possible in Captain of Industry. Let me know if there's something you're looking forward to seeing in this series once we are post-tutorial. So until next time, much love, happy gaming, and I'll talk to you soon.